Okay, hey, BookTube land. We're live right now for us. We started recording, but we've been chit-chatting. So, sometimes I feel like you're intruding in on us mid-thought, but that's okay.
You're allowed.
You're allowed. Okay, so what are we doing today? We're talking about the Women's Prize, and between the two of us, we've read all six. I haven't finished The Bread the Devil Need by Lisa Allen-Agostini. We're basing it off of what I've read so far. And if my feelings change, I'll update that in the description box because I feel like I'll be done in the next day or so. It's a quick read. So I thought we would go through, we would basically start by ranking the books that we've read so far and what's on the bottom. So Fraser's read 5 of the 6 books. This is Fraser Simons. I should introduce you. Fraser Simons at the channel Springboard Thought. He has read 5 out of 6. He has not read The Bread the Devil Need. And okay, so what was number 5 for you?
Island of Missing Trees.
Island of Missing Trees by Elif Shafak.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. The Island Missing Trees is about what, the Turks and Greeks, right?
Yeah. Well, it's about basically a romance novel in Cyprus, right? And
that's right.
It chronicles sort of their sojourn to England, basically, from the perspective
the Romeo
of
and Juliet-esque couple.
Yeah, from the perspective of a fig tree. Well, sometimes it does shift sometimes, but yeah, more or less the history of the city and the couple at a macro perspective is all from this tree.
That's true.
Which doesn't work, and that's why it's last.
Okay. Well, not a spoiler here, but The Island of Missing Trees is my number 3 because I'm only ranking 3 books.
Yeah.
I didn't like it either. I didn't think it worked very well, and I thought the storyline, especially about the couple, was very contrived, and that bothered me.
Yeah, we don't like contrivances on this channel.
No, we don't. I'm like, if I know where it's going, if I'm predicting it and it goes exactly that way and it's not very satisfying, then you get the bottom slot on my Women's Prize list.
Yeah, well, one thing about this that fundamentally grated on me was that it's a refugee story, essentially, and it represents, I think it actually has colonialism in its portrayal of the fig tree because it's anthropomorphizing the fig tree in a human way, and it kind of is congruent with it's talking about colonization and decolonizing, and then it's from the perspective of a colonizer putting that perspective onto a natural object, and I just was like, I cannot.
Your reasons for not liking it, I think, are a bit more complicated than mine.
Yeah.
I was like, it didn't work. Okay.
Yeah. After watching this video, I will have a TED Talk up. No, just kidding.
Yeah. Go to Fraser's channel for the TED Talk on the Island of Missing Trees and why it was really not good. Yeah. Okay. What's your number 4 then for you?
It will be Sorrow and Bliss.
Okay. What is Sorrow and Bliss about? I didn't read this.
Sorrow and Bliss is about a woman who is 40 years old and it's her birthday. She has her birthday party. 2 days later, her husband leaves her and she starts chronicling kind of why she's like that. We learn she's kind of not the nicest person.
Okay.
And then suddenly we get thrown into her life in sort of a journalistic vignette sort of situation. And we learn sort of what her mental illness is, which is completely fictional. It precedes that in the text. It says hey, just so you know, these symptoms are not indicative of any certain disease, because in this story, if it's on audio, she says X, I think. And in the text, it's just a dash. So it's a completely unnamed thing. And
so the mental illness in which she's suffering and apparently being mean about, or maybe is contributing to her meanness or her outlook on the world, is not named.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's completely unnamed, and it says that it's fictional. So, like, if people are trying to figure out what it is, you shouldn't be
Oh,
able
okay.
to. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. And then from there, it's sort of just like a catch up. So, in when she was 17 years old, a bomb went off in her brain, is how she describes it.
Mm.
And she starts developing symptoms. It gets worse. She gets medicated. Sometimes it gets better, sometimes it gets worse. And then it just sort of how the couple got together up to this point, and then it continues on from there. The thing that I didn't like about it, though, is that it becomes sort of auto-fiction-y by the end of it, suggesting that the character inside the novel, Martha, her name is, I should have said,
Okay. No worries.
um, and her journal in which she is keeping in there could ostensibly be the book that you are reading fleshed out. And the first thing that was published by the author was a set of memoirs. So for me, I was like,
Oh.
okay, this is probably like a self insert auto fictiony thing. And then in that case, it really complicates the mental illness situation for me.
Mm.
It sort of transgresses from a fictional, completely fictional space, insinuating it into some of this actually happened, but then the mental illness is fictional. And I was just
Mm.
like, what?
It's
And
safe to say it didn't work for you.
well, and then it also sort of becomes a very prescriptive story in the end, which I don't like. It kind of
Oh,
ties everything up in a bow like situation, which further makes it difficult for me when it's transgressing into auto fiction.
interesting. Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know. That was one of the only books that really I was curious about, but I had the hunch that I wouldn't probably like it, and I don't like to read things that will, intentionally like not like or, without that open feeling. So I'm glad that you read it and I didn't.
Nice. Yeah, I fell on the sword. But to be
Yeah.
fair, the authorial voice up until that prescriptive part, where in like all of this stuff is in the later section. So I was really enjoying it up to a point. Like the authorial voice was excellent. It was very funny at times, which is strange for me because I usually don't vibe with funny books generally. But she has
Mhm.
some kind of like dry wit happening
Yeah,
and
yeah.
observational humor and things like that. So yeah, it just was a little disappointing that it was kind of like, yeah, oh no. Yeah, it was a roller coaster ride. That's
It
what I'm
was a roller coaster.
saying.
Okay. Okay. All right. So what is your number 3 then?
Great circle.
Oh, okay. That is my number 2 out of 3.
Oh, I was
So,
expecting that to be your number one almost.
mm-mm.
Oh,
Well, it is almost my number 1 because it's number
or
2 out of
yeah.
3.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, so why is it number 3 for you?
I couldn't connect to it very well, but I will caveat that saying that I solely did the audio, and it seemed like a book where there was enough complexity where I kind of was hoping to see on the page more happening, and the narrator is just like not my favorite, and that just it's hard when you listen to an audiobook because I feel like the narrator supplants the authorial voice, they can either augment it or they can
Mhm.
detract from it, and so then you're kind of like, is this the author or is this the narrator? And it's like a liminal
Mm,
space. So I was aware of
that's true.
that,
Okay,
but
so the
yeah, and
audio
then
wasn't great
yeah, and then
for
just
you.
in general connecting to it, I just didn't care what was happening at all
Yeah,
ever.
yeah. I guess I should have said in the beginning, Great Circle is about the character of Marion Graves, who is a pilot, a female sort of go-getter young lady, and ends up being a pilot, and has a complicated life to say the least. And then it's interwoven with a more so this is happening in like the early 1900s, and it's interwoven with a more contemporary timeline about an actress playing the character of Marion Graves. You see the tie here, and and it's like about her time in Hollywood and her complications as well. So that's what Great Circle is essentially about. And I thought I enjoyed it. It was very like popcorn, easy read, historical fiction for the most part, except for that weird contemporary fiction timeline. And I really didn't like the contemporary timeline at all. And I really thought I thought it was supposed to maybe add something fresh, but instead I thought it really brought out the worst in the author. You could see kind of how bad her fiction could be. And that's what I didn't like about it.
Snap. Yeah. Yeah, I also didn't like the contemporary timeline either. I was just like, these
Yeah,
characters are
very flat.
one-dimensional, yeah,
Hmm.
and I was just like, "Okay, cool, I know exactly what happens in this story, but what
Yeah.
about in the past,
Did you
past?"
like the past timeline?
More so, yeah,
Same.
um,
Yeah.
so but then I began to resent the intrusions from the contemporary side,
Same.
so,
Yeah. They ended up feeling like I couldn't wait to get through them.
yeah,
I didn't like them.
a little
Yeah.
bit bitter.
Okay, so now we're at your top 2 of my top. So what's your number 2?
The Sentence by
Oh, by Louise
er
Erdrich. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Why is this your number 2?
I thought, I think it helps that it's just a really novel concept. It's about a woman who, and I didn't know this at the time either. I guess Erdrich has a shop in Seattle, I think, Portland, something like that.
No.
No,
No.
no.
It's like the central United I think it's in the central northern United States, and those places are not central northern.
Okay,
Go ahead.
well,
Go ahead though.
she has her own bookshop, but I didn't know that. And
Fraser's Canadian, by the way, so it's totally fine if you don't
yeah,
understand. If you don't, geography
yeah,
is gray down here. But go
yeah.
ahead.
This shop is in the USA. Yeah,
That's what I would say. I'd be like,
yeah.
it's somewhere in Canada, up there in
Yeah,
Grayland. I
exactly.
don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, um, but, it's about a woman who is, sentenced, and during her time, she educates herself, wants to become, basically has, like, aspiring writer type vibes, starts working in
Mm.
a bookshop, weird stuff starts happening in the bookshop. It takes place in contemporary times, very much so, like, it's a COVID novel is what people
Oh,
describe it
yeah.
as. And there's like a haunting happening, and then some other stuff that's going on, but it's mostly about just weird events that are occurring. And so because I couldn't get a beat on it, I liked it. Other people said they
Ah,
didn't like that aspect of it, but I was just like, I don't know what's going to happen, so I
nice.
was into it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the element
um
of surprise, would that be it? Like it
yeah,
was it just like a lot of little surprises kind of along the way?
yeah,
Hmm,
I wouldn't say the
cool.
prose like blew me away or anything, but it was just such an odd novel that, and it kept kind of changing. Like I was thinking in the beginning, oh, it's just going to be like, a glow up in a bookstore basically. But then there's a haunting, and then she has very complicated familial relationships. It's intersectional with
Mm.
indigenous practices and beliefs, which I didn't know about too. So that
Mm.
was also a novel component. So it was just overall, yeah, I would say like one word is just surprising,
Oh,
pleasantly.
okay. Yeah, that's great. That's great. I like that. Okay, you made me interested in reading that.
Mhm.
So, okay, so my number 1 is The Bread the Devil Need, by Lisa Allen-Agostini, and I really am enjoying this book. It's obviously still in progress, but I'm enjoying it because it's basically a character study of a woman who is dealing with domestic abuse in her relationship, and it is really quite like violent and sort of vicious. And I believe the main character is Trinidadian, and so that she's definitely there's a dialect, but the dialect isn't so thick that I can't read it. So that's adding like a textural element of place, without having to describe a lot of setting. You get a sense that you're in a different area. And anyways, and so it's about her and the outward life that she presents and like the internal life that she is, I think, still coming to grips with. But it's super fast paced and it's really interesting, and I have a lot of compassion for the main character, and it's working for me on all the levels. So yeah, it's great.
So is her external and internal life pretty incongruent then?
Yes and no. I feel like she thinks that she's keeping a secret, but the
Oh,
secret it's not according to the tips that I'm getting so far. It seems like it's a bit of an open secret, but she's not willing to come to terms with that. And meanwhile, it's being interspersed with her background. and almost like, and in those, and actually, so the book is told in first person, but then she does these flashbacks and they're told in third person, and it's little vignettes of like her life, and it helps you understand her more and why she's putting up with some of the things that she's putting up with.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I
it's
have to
really good. It's only about 150 pages, maybe. It's less than 200 pages, so it's really short and it's a quick read. I should be done with it. I just am not. No. Okay, so what's your number one? We're not lingering on that.
Ruth Ozeki's Book of Form and Emptiness is my number one.
Okay, why is it your number one? Or what is it about first? What is it about?
So it's about two characters, Benny and the child's mother that I can't remember the name of because I read this a while ago.
Yeah.
um, they lose the father, and she's widowed, and it's about their life without the father. So it's about grief, but it's really hard to get like a beat on, which is another sort of like surprising aspect of the story where Benny starts developing a strange relationship where it could be a mental illness, it could be like a fantastical element in which he is starting to form dialogues with any inanimate object that he comes into
Mm,
contact with, one of
mhm.
which is a book which claims to be the book that you are reading. And then that book starts having chapters that you read from. So it's very meta. It's like postmodern aesthetic sometimes.
Wow. Okay. You got me
Yeah.
really interested in that. So tell me, why did you like this?
I liked it because they didn't leave the mother behind. She starts like developing a sort of hoarder aspect to her life. She's not dealing
Mm,
so well. She's doing the best that she can with Benny, who doesn't realize how much space that he's taking up in her life. And it's sort of
mm,
stymieing her ability to even grieve. But then, because of the mental health aspect and her perception as being like a bad mother from other people, society intrudes on their lives in really interesting ways that make it clear
mm.
that the story is mostly about like structural inequality, dealing with these people that need a lot of help that aren't getting it at all.
Oh,
Like she's being assessed
fascinating.
by a social worker if she's a good caretaker for Benny, and just not getting that much compassion with that situation. And then Benny, whether or not you believe him with what's going on with him, the mental health aspect, because if I believe it's like a decade or two ago when this is happening, so mental health
Oh.
is not super up on things.
Mhm.
So his assessment is really like clinical, sterile, cold, and just not
Mm.
really listening to him. And so there's like this two-pronged attack of like systemic inequality being looked at, but then also this postmodernism and this str- it's just really strange. Like you get his characterization from the inanimate objects who seem to know more about him than he does in some ways. He
Hmm.
develops like this crush on this girl who's very like um not like other girls, basically. Like it's kind of that trope, but in a good way, I would say.
Okay.
Like she's just really
What?
different
Oh, I was
and
like, don't spoil
understanding.
it. Okay. Okay.
No,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah,
I'm
it
like,
starts becoming about everything, which is kind of how I think of all my like
oh.
all-time favorite five-star
Oh
reads.
yeah.
It
Yeah.
gets
It sort of
granular
touches
enough
on. Yeah.
that
Mm.
it's like a human experience kind of deal, where it's like it becomes about absolutely everything as it searches through all these different things. Some people
Hmm.
criticize it for being too long, but I was just like in it. I was in it.
You're
Didn't
like,
feel long
perfect
to
length.
me.
Perfect length.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so now I was thinking our plan of like top three, bottom three is sort of bunk because we just ranked them
It's true.
all. Okay, so do you? I mean, your favorite to win is the Book of Form and Emptiness. Would you be
I
mad if the sentence won?
No, I don't think so, but I'm surprised that people have generally, as I've seen, ranked it a little bit lower, but it might be because I had a really bad experience with Erdrich before with um the one with the gestating person on the cover, like the god of something. I can't remember what
I
it was
don't
called, but
know.
it was just not my jam at all, and kind of like horror vibes and stuff. So this was more like it reinvigorated my interest in the actual author as well. Whereas a lot of people
Oh,
that ranked it lower were like, this isn't her best. But to me, it was like, this is miles above the one that I didn't like.
okay.
Future Home of a Living God. That's what it's called.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Yeah, I would love to see The Bread the Devil Needs when I mean, I don't and then I've heard great things about Erdrich and Ozeki's works already. So it wouldn't surprise me if they won. I'd be kind of bummed if the Island of Missing Trees won, if I'm
Yeah.
honest with you. I could see why Great Circle would win, even if it's not my top choice. And I feel like I've heard enough critiques about Sorrow and Bliss that I feel like it doesn't deserve it either. But
Yeah.
that's, I mean, consistent with our rankings, so it's fine.
Well, the thing is that with Sorrow and Bliss, the thing that I am thinking about is all these books seem to have like a really meta component, except for maybe the Bread the Devil Need.
Maybe, yeah, there's not a meta-ness to
Yeah.
it.
Like the
Mhm,
sentence is quite meta sometimes, especially because it's in contemporary times, happening
mhm.
right now during COVID and all that kind of stuff. Great Circle is pretty meta in its own way.
In
Sorrow and
its own
Bliss was
way.
very meta.
Hmm.
Island of Missing Trees with the fig tree charting human life.
Yeah, a lot of people were saying the dual timeline was taking over, like, the women's prize because everything was dual timeline, but I see a
Mm,
lot of, and then someone else said magical elements in the women's prize was
mm.
also a really strong, theme. So, yeah, I feel like those are lingering over to this, shortlist and then the winner as well. It's just like every book has an element of magic in it. I guess maybe Sorrow and Bliss, maybe not.
Yeah, there's no magical component, but I mean, I guess you could consider a catch-all for all mental illness to be magical in a way, and a
You don't
pejorative
have to
way.
make it work. I know. I was like, that's not what I was looking for. Like in a
No,
in a bad way. It's
yeah.
magical but not good. It's sort of an evil spell. Oh gosh.
Yeah, Caesar says
Yeah.
no to that.
Okay. Okay. Well, I guess for the folks still watching,
Yeah.
um, so the women's prize winner will be announced sometime on Wednesday. I wish I knew when, but it's okay. So it's going to be announced on Wednesday. I know that we're going to be back and reacting to the winner, but I mean, I think you can tell where we stand on this short list. There are some books that we stand, and there's some books that we don't. So there you go. Such is life. So yeah. Anyways, well, thanks for being on my channel.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, this is great. And yeah, let us know what you think down below. What you think, who do you want to win? Who do you think should be left in the dust? There are some books that I think deserve to be forgotten. But yeah, okay. All right. Bye. Bye,
Bye.
Fraser.
See
Bye.
you.
Bye.